Hey everyone, welcome back to the SC Motorsports channel. Today again we're working on the Ranger. Waiting for parts again. Suspension parts we're still waiting on. Still waiting on Hydro Boost for it. So I figured we'll just do some little work that we're waiting for anyway. Today I want to actually try and fix this crossmember, or modify it I should say. This is a stock crossmember for this Ranger. It has been modified a little bit on this side. You can see I had kind of cut that out and put in just kind of a piece of channel iron here. With the AOD and the small block that was in there, I had to modify just to extend these two bolt holes out a little bit further. So we'll end up cutting that off, but you won't necessarily have to modify it like I'm going to today. But after mocking up the engine and transmission in the truck, we won't actually. I found out that, you know, I did massage the center of the tunnel here just a little bit and pounded it up to get a little bit of clearance right here in the front. So that's going to clear, and it should be fine with the modification that I made on the side. So we should be good with the clearance around the tunnel. After getting it mocked up in here, I had the tranny and bolted up to the engine and sat it in here, and basically had about, you know, 3-degree angle like you should on the engine and transmission, and everything should be fine. And then I ended up finding out that this cross member will actually work. You really don't have to modify it at all if you didn't want to, but I am going to, like I said, box this in. So what I want to end up doing is cutting this flange from here to here off on both sides. We'll cut that off all the way along and then box it in. We'll weld in a plate on the bottom, and then what I'll end up doing is just trimming this out here. I just want to cover in all these bolt holes and fill in a plate, so I'll end up just trimming along here and here, and kind of a square piece there. And we'll fill it in. We'll get rid of this. We'll fill that side in too. As you can see, we'll have to fill that in. But otherwise, we'll cut this flange off and fill all that. The only kind of reason I'm cutting this centerpiece out here is right now the bolt for the transmission sits about right here, or at least where I want to put it. You could slide it this way a little bit and probably be fine, or that way. But I want to just have a clean slate here and be able to mount it wherever I want. One thing on this transmission, or this crossmember, is that it's not centered. So right now I think this is how you would view it. That's the front, this is the rear. If you were to flip it like this, it's offset one way or the other. So right here it's actually offset to the right just a little bit. I think the whole engine and transmission from the factory was offset a little bit to the right. It tends to line up more straight with the rear end. But being the engine is much wider than a little 4-cylinder, we don't have quite that option. So there'll be a slight little angle to it, motor and tranny going to the rear end. So I want to cut that out and kind of put the hole right about there, and we should be okay. But we'll just make it a clean slate and basically box all that in. So I'll take the plasma torch, trim all that off, you know, take the grinder to it, make it nice on both sides, and then we'll weld it in. I'll probably end up kind of wrapping this in around here a little bit, or right to here, just to seal it totally off best I can. I don't know, maybe I should just leave it open. But that's what we're doing today. Should be a quick little video hopefully, and then we'll get some paint on it and we should be good to go. But for the most part, the factory crossmember will work on this. Oh, I should show you this too. Let me grab the other one here. So the transmission did, when I bought this used, came with the factory mount, I guess, transmission mount. And I was kind of hoping to use that. You could if you want to. But what I ended up finding is Stifflers makes this bracket here. Actually, it's for mounting a 6R80 in like a Fox body Mustang. So it's a lot shallower. It's not, you know, so deep. So I wouldn't, being I'm not gonna have to modify it that way. It actually works out pretty good. So, and there's a little bit of adjustment up or down, but I think this will actually work perfect where I don't have to modify the height of the cross member at all. I might have to, you know, adjust the shim here a little bit up or down with a few washers or something like that, but I'm not too worried about that. So after kind of mocking it up, it should work good. So, all right, so let's get started on this cross member, and I'll kind of show you along how I'm cutting it off and welding it back up. So another thing I forgot to mention on this cross member is this area here is actually tipped up a little bit towards the front, just because of the angle of the engine and transmission. So if you actually spin this and use it for some reason the opposite way, it's going to be, you know, tipped the wrong way. Depending on what grommet or, you know, rubber mount or transmission mount you put here, it might flex enough where it's not a big deal, or you could kind of flatten that out right in this area. But just be aware of that there is a slight angle to that, so that's why I'm keeping it in the same position. It just fits better with that transmission bracket that I got.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me happy. Hold my beer for a minute, I'm about to quit my job, cash in for a ticket. I'm going on a trip and I don't plan to visit. I'm gonna stay there till I feel like I'm winning, and this is just the beginning. I need a big change, help me feel like living. I need a big swing, home runs I'm hitting, and I'll never look back, moving on till I get it all. And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be? And do you believe you can do anything? But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?
All right, I got everything cut off of here that I want. I got those flanges along each side here, the length, and then I got the center cut out here. So I went and made a pattern here for that center. I'll do that first, get that bent over, all welded in, and then we'll box it in along the bottom.
Let's go! Hey! Yeah, this is my life, my strife, my right to fight, to die on. And this is my game to play, to claim a brand new name, And I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm a bit nervous that I might screw everything up that I've ever done. But what's the point of living if you ain't having fun? I guess I'll try this, try that, might miss, gotta find what I'm good at. I guess I'll look here, look there, over where am I scared, where am I?
All right, got that all welded in and ground down nice and smooth. So next step is to make a pattern here so we can weld in or box in the bottom of it.
I gotta make it in this life. Whatever makes me happy, know I'm doing things right. Sipping in the summer on a goose and Sprite, or find a nightclub for the end of the night, And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be? And do you believe you can do anything? But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?
All right, there we go. A slimmer, stronger cross member for the transmission. So I think it turned out pretty good. I'll still have to drill the hole in the center here. Basically, once I get this in the truck and get the transmission positioned where I want it, you know, I'll drill a hole straight through. There'll only be one. What I'll end up doing is I'll probably put a piece of pipe in here, just so when you tighten the bolt, it doesn't crush that. But other than that, I think next I'm going to try and sandblast this best I can to clean it up and get some paint on it, and it should be ready to install and get that, you know, figured out where we're going to mount that. So like I said, a lot slimmer, a lot cleaner, and stronger. So here's what the transmission mount or transmission crossmember will look like. I got it all mocked up here. If you do the same setup, it's kind of towards the back. I thought about welding in kind of a piece of pipe or something right there where the bolt goes through, just so that it wouldn't crush when you tighten the bolt down. But being it's so far back along that back wall or back side of it there, I figured it's not going to do that. I might try and let me see if I can hold it here. Put, you know, a little piece that sticks out here later. You know, you could do that yourself, I guess. A little bracket here, something like that, just for a little extra support. But with that thick washer that came with the kit, I think it's going to be fine. I can always change that later anyway. But if you look, kind of shows how the transmission sits there on the cross member, so should be pretty good. We got, I don't know how much of that you can see. We do have clearance up above the transmission, so we're good there. Once the suspension comes in, I think we're going to be able to drop the engine down just a little bit, so we should be able to even get a little more clearance between the tunnel and the transmission. But I think that turned out pretty nice, and should work fine. So before I ended this video, I figured I'd throw on the gear indicator sensor on the transmission. I ended up getting a Dakota Digital, the GSS 3000. This is basically the kit. Comes with the decoder. Here's the sensor, and a bunch of brackets and spacers and a little bit of wiring for it. There's a rod, a linkage for it. Basically the issue is, you know, with the different shift lever that I'm putting in there, doesn't have any type of indicator on it. So what I also got from Dakota Digital is this little indicator here that I'm going to mount right next to the shift lever. So each gear it's in, these lights will light up. But it has to know, so it has to put this sensor on there. You know, a bunch of these brackets that come with it are for a little bit older transmissions. You got some GM and some Ford, like a C6 or C4, something like that. But I have the universal bracket already kind of mounted on here. This is going to get basically mounted right here along the rail. Just put a couple spacers in between the pan in there so it's not rubbing right on it. And then there's going to be that rod between this sensor and then the shift linkage itself. So it's just a matter of kind of mounting this up here, getting that distance just right, and getting it wired. This is the decoder, so all those lights will have to get wired into the park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, first and second, which on a 6R80, this pattern here is a little bit different. Excuse me if I can do this one-handed here. But as you can see, on an F-150 6R80, it's going to be park, reverse, neutral, drive, or a D is usually what's on the console. Then you'll have M for manual, and then you'll have 2 and 1. So here, I'll probably just leave it for now, and I'll just know that obviously OD would be the drive, and then the D would be manual. And then 1 and 2 would be correct, and everything else would be correct. But this is just a little plastic bezel here. I can either put a new label over the top of it, you know, make a new bezel here, something like that. And you know, ideally it would be nice if the letters themselves lit up. So I don't know, down the road I might just make a new bezel and just have all these lights behind those, or you know, cut out or something so they light up. But for now, that'll be good enough just to put on the center console. But I figured, you know, as far as the wiring goes on all this, that'll come later. But I kind of figured I'd at least get that sensor mounted up on here. I didn't use the spacers, or I don't think I'm going to use these spacers that they come with it. I want to keep it as tight up as I can, because I'm sure my exhaust is going to come somewhere in this region, so I want to, you know, keep it as close to the transmission and up high as possible. So we'll get this kind of the holes figured out here real quick, mount it there, you know, get it sucked in kind of tight. They do make two different linkages or arms for this sensor if you want, depending on what you have. It doesn't really matter. I mean, ideally you'd like it to be the same, you know, wherever your pivot point is, where you put it on here versus your sensor, you want them to move at the same distance. But this sensor, it doesn't matter. You can basically program it to wherever it's going to end up being. So each gear will be just a different little spot. But you do want it to move a little bit. You don't want them so close that the sensor can't tell the difference. This is the little bracket or lever that they actually want you to mount on here. You know, you can basically put it up behind that nut and clock it wherever you want to. I'm actually thinking I might not use this. I might just drill a small hole in this lever and run it off of this one. I figured this one maybe would want to turn on me or something, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. And then basically we'll have to figure out, you know, the distance with the rod here. It's pretty light or small little rod, but it's not going to take much to, you know, move this sensor, so it moves pretty easily. But we'll at least get that mounted up here real quick, and then we'll probably end the video after that. All right, there we are. Got the sensor mounted. It wasn't too difficult. Maybe took me an hour or so to get all this mounted up and, you know, get the linkage made and kind of the holes drilled and whatnot. Kind of a dainty little rod and nuts and bolts on there, so a little tricky to just deal with it, but should work okay. So I tried to give it the best or a fullest sweep I could out of it, so I think that'll work. But that's going to be park right there, you know, and that would be first on these 6R80s. But kind of see how it's just bolted onto there and should work good. And I did, you know, drill this hole first. Wasn't getting as much of a sweep as I wanted out of here, so I moved it up a little bit. So, and it shouldn't interfere with the cable. The cable's going to be running this way, and I'll have to end up making a bracket for there eventually. But no, I think it'll work out good. I do have to come in and trim this plate here, get some of the excess off of it, make it look a little nicer anyway, get some of the sharp edges off of there and bulkiness off. But we'll wire this up once we get it actually installed in the vehicle, and yeah, should work good. So just a couple more things, guys, you know, as far as to check off the list. So, you know, Crossmember, and put that on there, so as we wait for parts to come in with the suspension and the brake booster we're waiting on yet. So we'll get there, you know, just get the little things done now while we can, and go from there. So I appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks.